What does Islam know about the West? When they think of the West, they don't think of the military apparatus. They think of the people, the culture. That's the real West. Without the culture, you don't have a military. So what do they notice? The feminization of the culture. Muslims are not a feminist culture. So they see women as weaker and as the entryway into any nation. Govern, mandate, control, enslave, dominate the women. And which is why in their culture, they are very much all of those things towards the women. Because if you can keep the women in control and keep them subjugated, you can really control society. A man is always going to rebel. Now you notice population are not having babies, right? You're depriving your population of men. And most births now are female, the few that do occur. In the West are far below the population replacement numbers. The Muslims are above it. But they know that the way in is through women because they can see and track the political temperature and climate. And they see how it has become aggressively, progressively less male. And why is that important? Because there's something that happens in the difference between men and women, not just the anatomy. Although the progressives think there is no difference between anatomy. In fact, they don't even define what a woman or a man is. However, nonetheless, they do know one thing. They can see the character of the woman is different than the character of a man. And they know that women much prefer not to fight. They would rather put up with, give in, greatly compromise, because they are governed by their feelings and their emotions. If you put enough fear in a woman, you can quite easily cause her to back down or run away. And you have a culture now where the men are very feminine. In fact, I would dare to say that many of the women are more masculine than the men are themselves. You see that most men in the West are subservient to women, and not by the rule as much as it is by the biology. Because when you have an oversexed community and everything is constantly sex, 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 you don't have that in a Muslim country. You have that here. And if you can keep the boys sexed up and constantly distracted by sex and adrenaline, dopamine, drugs, high, that will lead to the feminine brain, and that's not the warrior brain. The women can see that the men are becoming less masculine, while they are becoming more testosterone driven by the prospect of being able to dominate a man. And they are in every way. There is no inequity with females. It's all men now that are on the bottom rung of everything, economically and academically. And you see it in the churches as well. It is the dominant thing in the churches, the feminine brain. And that's why you have a culture that is cashless bail and nice to the criminals and let the people come across the border without being vetted. It doesn't matter. Just let everybody be happy. I just want my son to be happy. I don't care what he does. That's primarily the feminine brain. And many of you conservative women and women who have endured communism, Marxism in other countries, you're not quite like that. I know. But we're talking about the preponderance of the liberal, democratic, progressive party, and then a very small percentage of the centrist Republicans as well, and independents. You have a culture that has demonized men, which does not happen in a Muslim country. So they're taking advantage of that vulnerability, that weakness in the West. Because we just want everybody to get along and we just want everybody, can't we just all be nice? It's a mother nanny state mentality in the West that they can't even recognize when they should not let somebody in their door, when they should not let somebody in their country. You've lost that ability to think like a man and like a father, whose primary role is protection of the tribe and of the village, of the country. Primary role. But when you demonize a man's role to elevate your own, you destroy the balance. And now it's all completely out of balance. And you very seldom hear a strong male voice, except only in Donald Trump. But isn't he the exception? Isn't he a dinosaur about to go away? The last roar, the last man to roar. And if you really watch the men, particularly those that are married in their relationship with their wives, you can watch and see, is it truly a man? You'll know by looking at their relationships with their wives. It's a sad thing. But as I read many times before in Isaiah chapter 3 and 4, the day was going to come where the boys, the young ones, the 28-year-old, the 32-year-old, the whoever is going to rise up. The Greta Thunbergs of the world, the children, are going to rise up and rule over you. And the women will be your bosses. Isaiah. Because no man can be found because he's abdicated his role. You can't really even talk to men these days about things that matter. I just met with a man the other day. They don't have any thought, no vocabulary. They can't speak. In every conversation, it's about how they feel or their addictions. They can't even think about the future of their own children or their country. They're too busy, caught up with being offended by the way you talk to them. This is like talking to women. There's nothing left of most men other than a basketball game they want to watch. They've become worse than children who just want to watch cartoons and eat candy and go to the zoo. Now these are men of voting age, men with companies, men with wives and children who have no purpose, no nobility, no desire, and no drive, like the Muslim. The country will be Islamic. You heard it here first. And that should scare you. Unless you don't believe me, then you're just laughing. That's okay. I'll get the last laugh, and it won't be a laugh. I'll be crying and mourning because you didn't stand up to fight. You were selling your future away. You won't invest in righteousness. You won't invest in God's work because you don't even lead in your own home. You don't even lead in your own head. You dropped the ball, men. And the Muslim and the feminist women are picking it up. But you're going to have to give an account for what you allowed to happen and what you did not do.